Arguably one of the most useful pieces of technology mankind has ever created, used in thousands of applications in today's modern technology, from helping students in classrooms to allowing cash registers to function, as well as having provided much of the basis to modern computing, the calculator has been pivotal in our technological development. With a history stretching at least 4,000 years, there's not a lot of people who know much about this humble device. So let us go back to the beginning. Back to when advanced mathematics was at its very beginning, and where the world finally introduced itself to the most underrated instrument in history. Around 2000 BC, the most advanced groups of the time, those being the Sumerians of the Mesopotamia and the ancient Egyptians of Egypt, used simple devices called abacuses to complete simple counting tasks. The device would function having columns of 10 beads or sticks on wires that could be slid to the other side to represent an addition of a certain value, such as 1s for the first column, 10s for the second, and so on. This way of counting was the primary method for thousands of years and remained relatively unchanged all the way up until the early 17th century, where a new tool called the slide rule was invented. The slide rule was made up of a sliding disc on an object resembling a ruler, with various scales and inscriptions in order to compute not only addition and subtraction, but multiplication and division. The slide rule quickly became the main source for answers in mathematics, and as designs grew more complex, trigonometric, logarithmic, exponentials, and square roots also became possible. This design was so effective that it was even taken on the Apollo 13 mission in 1970. Although the slide rule was well designed, more complex machines were still yet to come. In 1642, French mathematician Blaise Pascal invented the first mechanical calculator. This machine utilized 2 gears in order to perform all the basic operations. The design was later improved by Gottfried Leibniz and his Leibniz wheels, before being pushed even further by Thomas de Colmar in 1820. His arithmeter became the first mechanical calculator strong enough to be utilized in daily office work. Although these designs for mechanical calculators were bulky by today's standard, they were incredibly effective in what they aimed to achieve for the time, and continued to be improved upon by others such as William Burroughs. In 1948, the Curta calculator was the most portable calculator available and set the precedent for the general form of the calculator until the 1960s, by which point electronic calculators began to take over. Although the Curta was the most portable calculator, it was far from the most powerful. Developed in 1946, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, or ENIAC for short, became the world's first computer designed purely for calculating. It was 1,000 times faster than its electromechanical counterparts, but it had one minor drawback. It weighed 27 tons, making it slightly less portable. The next major advancement came in 1961 with ANITA, or a new Inspiration to Arithmetic calculator. With its miniaturization of vowels and the implementation of the newly developed solid-state transistors, ANITA greatly improved computational power, as well as being smaller than an entire room, a good feature to have that continued to be included in all calculators. Another aspect that made this calculator such a milestone was that the only moving components were the mechanical buttons. Everything else was computed and displayed electronically. Due to this being the most advanced technology of the day, each unit sold for roughly the equivalent of $8,000 today. With transistor calculators setting the standard for further designs, the next step was ELKA 22, designed by Bulgaria's Central Institute for Calculation Technologies, the first to include a square root function. These large designs were the norm for the next few years until Busicom, a Japanese company which in 1970 created the first electronic pocket calculator. The designs of these devices and the technology involved continued to increase until they could be powered solely on solar power. After this point, the pocket calculator was capable of close to any function required of it, and so for further improvements to be made, they needed to be more than just the basic functions. Things such as sleeker hardware, thinner designs, and so on. In 1985, the next improvement came from Casio with the FX 7000G, the world's first graphing calculator. Today we have the capability to produce a calculator where the size would restrain usage of the device to a point where it would become an issue of functionality instead of a selling point. Or in other words, we could make a calculator so small you couldn't even use it. Now a single device dedicated to calculating is less than necessary. In the early 1990s, personal computers and later smartphones have more than succeeded in replacing the need for personal calculators. Today, calculators are not only used for students, but areas of engineering once thought to be science fiction. But even now, with many calculators being replaced, its effect on all of our lives cannot be understated, and as such, it still holds a place dear to us all. Think about how fun this subject would be without it.